Good morning, everyone. I want to welcome you. My name is Deborah Lana. I'm president of the Alpharetta Chamber of Commerce. And this is really our first Alpharetta Restaurant Month kickoff live virtual event. So excited to be with you all. We have a great program for you. And I want to also say, congratulations, we've made it to October. Here we are. So we're going to have some fun. Part of this kickoff is and really just a sense of community. We are here to help support our businesses in Alpharetta, but our restaurants, especially our restaurants. We just know how devastating the virus has been and all of those details. Today, we're going to focus on the solution. We have a program we're kicking off today called the Alpharetta Restaurant Month. And there's an amazing dining card you're going to be able to purchase, and just so many fun things. So today, we're excited for the lineup. I have with us today Atlanta's own celebrity and a dynamic personality. You all know Steak Shapiro, creator of Atlanta Eats. That's an Emmy award-winning program, and we're so excited to have Steak with us today. And then also Ron Altman, another superstar in the area. Ron Altman is not only the owner, restaurateur of BurgerFi off of Windward, but Ron this year has served as the Alpharetta Chamber's chairman of our board of directors. And Ron, it's just going to be great. We're going to have some conversation with you today. But again, thank you for all that you do.
Great to be here.
Yes, and the inspiration behind the restaurant month. So we'll get to you in a minute. Also, I cannot do this without my team, my Mobile Life team. I've got Mike Grillo today. He's the COO of My Mobile Life, a digital marketing company, and also our producer today. And Rick Hancock, back again behind the mic. We've got Rick, who is the CEO of My Mobile Life, and also Tech Atlanta, journalist, just amazing things that you and Michael have been able to do for your company. Tech News is a better way to say that. You're CEO and publisher. So welcome everyone. A couple little items. We are going to use the chat feature today. So be sure to ask your questions through chat. You're also going to see in there, I've already put in the link over to the Alpharetta Chambers page so you can purchase the dining card today and in the days ahead. And then finally, I am going to award two of our guests today, you, the attendee, dining card is our way of saying, again, let's celebrate our restaurants. Let's get out there and let's go see those restaurant owners, those workers, servers, and the delicious food that we're going to all enjoy in the month of October. So without further ado, I am turning this over to Rick Hancock.
Thank you, my friend Deborah. As always, I appreciate the kind words and the support that you've always provided us and all the businesses in Alpharetta. Thank you very much. Who doesn't love talking about food? Yes, I love talking about tech. I love talking about food as well. And I wanted to start with Ron. Good morning, Ron.
Good morning.
We're now calling this Alpharetta Restaurant Month. It used to be called Restaurant Week, and you're the guy responsible for saying, hey, we need to make this bigger. Can you explain?
Thank you. Well, it's great to be here, and a special thanks to Steak. Love your show, and we're honored that you're participating in this with us. You know, we know this is a big idea. The way it came about, just a little backstory for anyone who's not familiar with the chamber. Our chamber exists for one thing, and that's to serve one audience, and that's businesses. So everything we do is about supporting our businesses in ways that help them be successful, how to grow, how to operate better, how to be more profitable, and be this catalyst to help them thrive. So that's a big agenda for us to have. Beyond that, our chamber also, the mission states that in addition to helping businesses make money and succeed, we're going to have a positive impact on our community. So with that in mind, this restaurant month is really a trifecta kind of idea. Number one, it is helping support our restaurants and hospitality in Alpharetta. Alpharetta is kind of a magnet in this area for people to come in and enjoy so many restaurants and our hotels and things to do. The second thing is, this restaurant month is going to bring a lot of visitors, and that just uplifts the overall economy. The third is a key component of this, Rick, is that we're giving a generous part of the proceeds to charities. And that's part of the whole mission with our chamber too, to do things that have a positive impact. So this year, North Fulton Community Charities Food Pantry going to help feed those that are hungry, and the Senior Services of North Fulton, the Meals on Wheels program. So, I mean, it is a big idea because it helps our restaurants, helps the local economy, helps those people in need. And it's going to be a fun thing that draws people out, given the tough year we've had to enjoy the restaurants.
That's an awesome setup. Thank you very much, Ron. So Steak, I got a chance to talk to Steak yesterday, and the last thing he said, hey, I can talk about anything as relates to food and sports. So I got to start with the Falcons. Are people eating a lot more because they're so upset with the Falcons? Come on, tell me.
They're eating their feelings, right?
Yeah.
That's what they say.
Yeah.
And especially, there's a lot of eating between 3:45 p.m. and 4:10 p.m. on Sundays. Right around 3:40, I think you're going to the fridge and getting nervous, and about 4:30, you're just deep into sweets after blowing another game.
There you go. I was going to say the same thing.
It's one of the busiest sports weeks of all time in the history of sports, because you have the NBA finals at the same time as the Major League playoffs, is the same time as college and pro football all happen at the same time. That's never happened before.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about food. So one of the things Deborah and I, we were talking last week, what's the, in Atlanta in general and Alpharetta specifically, is there an iconic meal? Like, I'm from New York originally. We're known for pizzas and bagels and stuff like that. Is there one particular food that you say it's Atlanta?
So, wings, barbecue, Southern. I'd say, in different times. I think Southern was bigger 10 years ago, right? The meat and three concept, which was pretty hot. You don't hear as many meat and threes. Then I think, we are like full steam ahead with barbecue, right? So every neighborhood, unbelievable entrepreneurial stories. At Atlanta Eats, we have we've shot hundreds and hundreds of restaurants. I think Alpharetta is our #1 city that we've shot, thanks to the CVB there being our partners, and just so many great stories. But, we analyze our Instagram, our Facebook, our TV, everything. And pizza, burgers, barbecue are what always win for most, like we do like pretty pictures of salads and sushi and healthy food, and we get like, a couple of hundred, and then get the right cheese pull and you get like 3,000. So, but I think, barbecue, Atlanta, kind of took a back seat to Memphis and North Carolina and, I don't know, Texas to a degree, right? I don't think so anymore, though. Every town is really doubled down on their barbecue. And for numerous reasons, including our friend Lou Williams in the NBA, wings became a sport. But Atlanta's no, especially in the city. So wings are the conversation. If you've seen that show Atlanta before, it was a huge hit on Fox. Atlanta's known for wings. But I'd say that's where we live right now. I don't know that Southern, maybe because of maybe what you guys think, maybe the health factor. Not that the other two are healthy, but like the macaroni and cheese, meatloaf, baked chicken doesn't seem quite to be as relevant. Colonnade Restaurant, an iconic restaurant here in Atlanta. There aren't as many of those as the other categories.
I want to remind everybody, you can throw a question in the chat. We have one. They were a little upset that I talked about the Falcons because they are a frustrated PSL.
They're trying to have a nice day, and then you decide to, it's a beautiful day outside, and then you mention the word Falcons. That's not good.
So, you talk about, not having necessarily an iconic. Do you think that has more to do with, and let's talk about Alpharetta specifically in North Fulton County, the changing diverse diverse, meaning people are coming from all over the country, relocating here. They're bringing their own cultures and cuisines, and the uniqueness of this area doing better than than the city of Atlanta outside the OTP is doing much better in terms of sustaining what we're going through with COVID.
Well, yeah. So obviously, neighborhoods are doing better than urban Atlanta. Maybe even Buckhead, although it's Buckhead's a big neighborhood, right? But it's not the same kind of a neighborhood as downtown Alpharetta or downtown Roswell or Woodstock or Cartersville or even downtown Decatur, where it's you can almost walk to these restaurants, right? Mm-hmm. Downtown Atlanta, obviously, restaurants are driven by convention, by sporting event, by concerts. They had a spectacular 2018. They would have had 2019 because Atlanta has never been more relevant on the national stage for all those things. Well, the problem is once COVID hit, once travel and once the airport are hammered like that, then there's just not neighborhoods yet. We're 10 years away, what the project is in downtown Atlanta. So, Avalon's come back fast. Downtown Alpharetta's come back. Kent Street and Roswell has come back. Marietta and what they're doing in Marietta Square, and they're all coming back much faster than I feel like Buckhead has.
Why is that, you think?
Well, because there's a huge, restaurants are the lifeblood of these communities. It's the gathering place, right? It's after, Little League, and it's meeting your buddies after work, and it's families on date night. And it's like, just feel the energy of walking around what you guys have created there in Alpharetta, with that restaurant row, really, downtown Alpharetta. I mean, those are places that you are at. So the key to being successful in a restaurant is recurring business, right? How do you become a local part of the community that folks are at, 52 weeks a year, so 25 visits a year, 20, 25, 30 visits a year. And I think when COVID hit, COVID was the number one story, but the number two story, which is why Atlanta Eats is thriving right now, the restaurant community was the story of Atlanta, right? In Georgia. Everybody was concerned. We're the number one dining out city in the United States, us in Dallas, which means we're cooking at home less than any other city. And my house, and God bless, my wife, we definitely kept to that category of we were eating out a lot. And the kids got spoiled and, we're grabbing food, and folks are just more social, right? So we were the number one dining out city in America. So COVID hit that community hard. And I think when you're in a community that feels close and has a connection, they are supporting those restaurateurs in a different way than, say, a restaurant at Phipps Plaza or, a big Buckhead Life restaurant. It doesn't feel the same quite connection, right, mm-hmm. as you have in these communities. So the farther out you get, or just, OTP, the more people, whether it was takeout and carry out and make sure you came by once a week, or buying your booze at the local restaurant, or eating outside when you could, or going out to patios, people feel connected to those restaurants in their community. And the closer knit community, the more the restaurant had a chance to survive and thrive. If they were doing a good job. There was an oversaturation of restaurants, and a lot of those are going by the wayside that weren't doing great to begin with as well.
Well, that's a good lead into my next question. There's this chase for trying to get back to normal or a new normal. That may or may not happen, but have you noticed any innovation in the restaurant industry because of COVID that you think will stay when we get back to normal?
Yeah, the pivot to, people are affected forever, right? There's a pocket of folks that are going to be nervous in restaurants forever, right? Or at least for years. Same with flying, and there's some folks who are totally back in, and then there's a percentage that'll never think about a restaurant the same way. So the pivot to takeout and carry out, being better about it, being more effective at it, offering a more seamless infrastructure, selling booze, and beer and wine. And I think it's great that all these communities, I think all the municipalities are like, whatever you got to do, put that table out on the sidewalk, sell that wine, get that, make that margarita mix and, hand over the pitcher of it, whatever you have to do. I don't know what the rules are. You guys would know better than me. I don't think you have to file for licenses and any of that stuff anymore. I think it's kind of like whatever we can do. So, al fresco dining, patio dining obviously crushes it right now. So I think people wanting to sit outside, you worry like crazy about the Northeast. So there's a little bit, I'm from Boston. There's a slow crawl back in New York and Boston and Philly and all that. But I mean, we're in October. Like they're going, they're not, outdoor dining don't work in 40, 30, 20 degrees, right? So we have the luxury that outdoor dining still works, 11 months a year, 10 months a year, heck, you get a day in January that's 60 degrees, you'll be outside. So, you've got to manage delivery, takeout, obviously the ongoing dance with the Postmates and Uber Eats, and all those, and Grubhubs and.
Go deeper into that, because what kind of pressure is that on the restaurants when you have these competing outside sources?
The margins are awful. I think the margin used to be 28% on Grubhub, right? Now maybe it's 17%. So, the margins for restaurants are razor thin, right? That's why guys who own restaurants aren't living in, sprawling mansions, right? You don't get into business. You want to do that, go be a private equity guy. You want to, go with your passion. That's kind of like being in radio, right? So you're going to go with your passion. You work in restaurants. So the margins are so razor thin. Now, Atlanta's a booming restaurant community, but you still are living somewhat with, the business model is maybe like enough in the bank to handle like a 6-week or 4-week drop off. So when you start taking 25% of just take $100 order, and you're taking $25 off that order to execute, and that doesn't bode well. I mean, again, you don't have the means to deliver on your own. You don't have the infrastructure for that. So those models, it's razor thin. So now they've come down a little bit. I talked to the CEO last night of Hooters that's based out of Atlanta, and they probably have locations all around you guys. And they're just talking about, we can't, the liability for trying to deliver on our own, we could never afford. And we subscribe to every single one of those apps, all 6 of them. And it's a necessary evil. And then it's who travels well, right? Wings travel well, pizza travels well. Burgers travel terrible, steaks travel terrible. So, there's just an incredible amount of pressure. You can't not make your product available, because you're also giving that product to folks that may come into your restaurant. So at least it's getting delivered to their house at some point. But what's the quality like, and what are you losing from a quality standpoint? All of that stuff is scary.
And that what you just said is a good reason for us to try to celebrate during this month the restaurants that are hanging in there, doing a great job, want to continue to build community, want to continue to grow their businesses. And
if you pick up the food there, you are doing leaps and bounds better for them than ordering off an app.
If I could build on what I agree with everything Steak is saying, just to build on it from a restaurateur's standpoint. To me, what we've seen in Alpharetta, and part of the reason that it's, our restaurant community is doing well, there is a real sense of community and people out here. It's a close-knit community. They see restaurants have struggled and have supported us. In my restaurant, I mean, to see folks come in and buy gift cards just to give away, it's very touching, honestly, how they have come together as a community and supported this industry. I'd also give credit to the leadership in our city. Mayor Gilvan put together a task force asking how can the city help businesses and restaurants in particular. Very quickly, they took actions to change the permitting, which allowed us to, the interest of safe dining, you know, at BurgerFi, we put tents out in the parking lot, spread everything out to make sure it was safe. And that's credit to the city. They very quickly were looking for how they could support us. So those things I think are a marked, you know, very positive thing for the city.
Great. Hey, everybody. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
You know, I was just going to also echo what Steak is saying. I mean, there's some fundamental changes that have taken place for the restaurant industry. And you might just think of it as access to our guests. This whole delivery mode of providing, you know, we were fortunate in fast casual that we've always had delivery, and some folks had to try to scramble and set that up, you know, in the last couple of months. But that has made us rethink the way we do business and the way Steak is talking about the economics. It really has changed the way businesses, restaurants operate, created more challenges, but also created opportunity to improve the frequency of serving people, because they're more accessible. That we've got these delivery services that take our food out to the office cubicles where someone doesn't have time to leave and come in and deal with the line. So, you know, it's challenging, but a lot of positives are coming out of it as well long term.
Great. Hey, we want to make this a very interactive conversation, so get your questions in the chat. And if you also notice in the chat, we have a link. You don't have to wait until the end of this. You can go ahead and get your card, or 2 or 3 or 4 or 10. Clicking on the link will take you directly to the Alpharetta's website, and you can get more information and, more importantly, purchase a card. State, using Ron as an example, are there any additional pressures on restaurants that are individually owned versus those that are owned by franchisees?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, listen, the best analogy I can get for the restaurant community is for just about every, you know, business platform, which is the COVID one. If you had a pre-existing condition before COVID, odds are that you may die, right? So, you know, to be, you know, blunt, that's the COVID term, right? If you you had a medical condition, or you're, you know, obesity and you're older, or whatever, any of those things. It's no different with restaurants. There were too many restaurants, right? And a lot of them weren't being operated very efficiently. And when the economy is crushing it and people can go out to dinner 3-4 times a week, and, you know, they're happy to spend money. So first of all, you had to have a built-in following and have done work that is admirable and that folks were loyal to you, right? If you didn't have that, then you're not open, right? It's over, right? And you're not going to reopen because there's going to be less restaurants to pull. Obviously, it's about capital. It's like, how much money do you have in the bank? How are you funded? Are you part of a restaurant conglomerate? You know, obviously national, businesses like, the Hooters of the world, just because I was with their CEO last night talking about their business, or, Olive Garden's done great. We know those folks really well. The Longhorn folks as well. You know, they're fine because they're well capitalized. So, it's a numbers game. The numbers are awful for restaurants. You know, I mean, like when the shutdown happened, most folks had to, shut down, and then food costs. And then, the big thing is, what about your bar? Everyone knows the margins on that martini that you're charging, whether it's $9 or $15 or the vodka tonic, are phenomenal margins. You have great food, so you can make some money on your bar. When you can't do that, that really becomes a challenge as well. So how well capitalized you are, how well your reputation was prior to COVID, how embedded you are in the community, and are you in your neighborhood, to me, are all factors of whether or not you're going to be successful coming out of it.
Yeah, so again, if you haven't checked out Steak's website, it's atlantaeats.com. Very cool, very fun, very engaging. So everything that you want to know about Atlanta Eats.
So we're on every day of the week. We have a TV show at 9:30 a.m. on Peachtree during the week. And then Saturday nights, we do a brand new show every Saturday night, which is at 7 o'clock. and then Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m. And then all our digital. I mean, we're the #1 digital site in the city. We've covered thousands of restaurants between social, digital, and then our famous, we won another Emmy for the best lifestyle show in the Southeast a few weeks ago. So our long form pieces on restaurants, which we love to tell those stories. Restaurants are great for storytelling, right? As Ron can attest, and most of those guys have great stories to tell. They're a little, off center, which we like, right? Like media guys like me, right? We're not normal dudes, or you wouldn't get in the business. So, we think we have the best TV show locally in America about restaurants.
Awesome. We have some questions, so I'm going to throw them out there. Jorge Valencia. I don't know if this was asked. With COVID, are the items in the Go Food orders different today than before? So basically, are people ordering and eating differently now than pre-COVID?
They're drinking more, I can tell you that. A lot more, right? So what was the big joke during the lockdown, the 6 or 8 weeks when we couldn't, is people taking their trash out and be like, holy smokes, what the hell, what kind of week did we just have? Well, also, a couple of fascinating, so people were, so what really happened was the return of domestic and people buying in bulk. So restaurants, when restaurants were closed, supermarkets did incredibly well with beer sales, and the craft beers are the ones that got crushed, and it's the domestic that crushed it. Coors Light, Miller Lite, Anheuser-Busch, they all had incredible momentum because people were buying in bulk, right? They're buying 30 packs of domestic beer, and they're not, and they're looking for economy of scale and everything else. Certain foods travel well, certain foods don't travel well, right? I think most folks envision unwrapping their food and knowing what does well. Pasta seems to travel well and reheat well. Burgers, French fries are an enormous challenge. You can't deliver a great French fry through delivery. That's not going to happen, right? So pizza's done amazing, obviously. We talked to the franchisees of folks like Domino's, and the local pizza franchise have done great. So, no mysteries what brands are doing more successful than others when it comes to food and dining.
And Erica Lohman wants to know, Steak, how do you identify new restaurants for your show?
Restaurants are the ultimate word of mouth, right? The reason I got into wanted to build the food brand for Atlanta is because me and my buddy spent a lot of our time talking about food and dining and restaurants and what opened. Have you been there? And that chef and this and that, bar. And same way I talked about sports, right? I look at it very similar. It's a huge passion point. It indexes as the #1 interest in Atlanta, and food is the ultimate word of mouth. So, I live in town. I live in Sandy Springs, Brookhaven, the area, but I'm 3 miles from Roswell Road, or I'm 3 miles from Phipps and Lenox, and I'm 3 miles from Ashford Dunwoody, and I'm surrounded, I think, within 3 miles of maybe 300 restaurants, which is what makes Atlanta so unique. Mm-hmm. So everybody reaches out to Atlanta Eats. We find out when something's hot and cool in Alpharetta, in Roswell, in Peachtree City, or Stone Mountain, or Marietta, or in town gets a lot of the pub. But if I were opening a restaurant, I've been asked about that, I think OTP is the way to go. I really believe it. If you deliver a great product, OTP, the loyalty factor is so much higher than in town, in Buckhead. And you see that.
So be the business advisor for the restaurants in Atlanta, in Alpharetta. How do they maintain and grow, yes, in this current environment and in the future?
You just have to stay close to your customer. You have to, Ron will tell you, every trip, when I talk to a new restaurateur, I can't look him in the eye and shake him hard enough to say every single, Atlanta is going to sample you. Especially pre-COVID. There was no chance, given the money and economy and everything else, if you were a new restaurant, you would get sampled 100%. And that person has a mediocre to below average experience. you could have just lost, I like to equate it to, $15,000, $20,000 per person. I said, that goes well, they'll be back next week. They could be back 3 weeks later. They could be back the next 5 years. You have one bad experience. There's so many other options that you could lose a customer forever. And the recurring business. So first of all, you have to be maniacal about every element of your business, or at least, folks are a little more forgiving coming out of COVID, right? Because bringing staff back and, short, smaller menu, but you got to be, maniacal about recurring customers. OTP is a great way to go because you can be close to, knowing, listen, there's no mystery that the restaurateur that's there every night, that knows their customer, that's on the floor, that spends time, that looks at everything coming out of the kitchen, that builds relationships, is going to be in a great place. And the guy that thought it would be a fun thing to do and is not really into the customer service part of, is going to struggle and probably already hasn't reopened. So, people are loyal. People have money in their pockets too. I know unemployment has been rough, but a lot of people have more spending cash than they've ever had, and they're not going anywhere, and they're living in a community like Alpharetta, and but the money's burning a hole in their pocket, right? They can't travel to their fancy, they didn't take their European vacation. They're not going to the resorts they used to. The story of Umi in Atlanta, if you guys are familiar with Umi, I mean, when they went to takeout, and you're talking about takeout orders like I've never seen in my life. Like, dudes, couples dropping thousands of dollars for sushi because they literally hadn't done anything in 2 months and money was no object. And they were they'd walk in there and do a dinner for 12 at their house and spend thousands of dollars. There was crazy money in Buckhead being spent on takeout. Alpharetta has the same type of community, but you got to stay close to them. Also, you can geo-target, and this isn't a pitch for what we do, but we do video content, and I said, listen, just get some great content. You can geo-target within 2 miles. You got to keep reminding people. When's the last time you had that cheeseburger, chicken marsala, fish tacos, or when's the last time you stopped by? You got to continually remind people they haven't been to their place. And if you make people hungry, which is why video works so well, our business is pivoted to that. We eat with our eyes. So if you get people hungry, right, sending the right video at 4:30 on a Thursday to get someone thinking about, wow, we haven't been in there a while. It's not that expensive for folks to find a way to, geo-target within a couple of miles. And content, you got to get them to follow you and send out beautiful, delicious photos and just be on top of it.
Well, that's a great lead into my next question. Folks, business owners, any type of business owners, but especially you're focused on the day-to-day. You really don't get an opportunity to look forward, think ahead, what's the next thing. You talked about, we do digital marketing. So I definitely appreciate what you're talking about, the geo-targeting. But marketing isn't something folks have a chance to think about every single day. But if they're forced to, if you can give some business advice, looking forward, forcing people to look forward on what's the next thing for their business.
I'll go back to Umi. So I cannot tell you how many people say about the texts they get from Umi almost every day that are super funny, clever, tongue-in-cheek, not annoying, right? So they found this voice of and I wish I had some of them for you, but I can't tell people dude, I got a text from Umi today. It's hysterical. They said blah, blah, blah. It was timely, whatever. So that's a deeper level of, but to the same token, you got to get in front of your customers. They're making a decision every night between what am I going to eat and who am I going to, spend my $73 with? And you have to be top of mind. And if you don't have a strategy for your social media, and you don't have a strategy to be in your community, right? The catering business, those are the folks that are getting crushed, right? Those 200-person churches, those 300 people, corporate lunches. So, and there's not a lot that some of those folks can do right now, but you have got to figure out your game plan to staying close to your customer. And it's never been easier than with social media or getting their phone numbers or sending a text, or if you're a really entrepreneur, making phone calls and just, you know, it's a challenge, but the folks that are doing it well are separating themselves from the folks that are, you know, even like we hear stories of like my nephew was home for the summer and took over our Instagram account, right? And he's a you know, graduate student in film. Well, the kid went back to college and nobody knows the account code, right? And now somebody else is taking it over, or, you know, I mean, listen, it's a hard decision. You don't want to spend money necessarily. You don't have the money for PR companies all the time, or, you know, a company like us that, you know, is creating original content. Independent operators don't have that kind of money. I totally get it, but you got to figure out, you know, you watch restaurateurs lay out a P&L and lay out their budgets, and they don't have anything for social media and marketing. And you know, that's part of a business, right? It's the rest. It's like the difference between restaurateurs who run their restaurant like a business and ones who run it like a chef. And there's a big difference. And you know, we're not hard to market to. Like, show us something tasty and invite us in and make us hungry, and we'll probably be there in the next 7 days, right?
Okay. All right, I'm definitely going to get some lunch right after this. Again, folks, if you haven't picked up your card, go into the chat, click on the link. Great information about the Alpharetta Restaurant Month. You can buy a card or two. So if you haven't done so, please click on that link. You can also check out Steak's website at atlantaeats.com.
Yeah, Atlanta Eats TV is our Instagram.
Okay.
And Alpharetta just crushes. I mean, Alpharetta is just, you guys have the best story ever, because you have all these independent, awesome operators that have incredible passion with great diversity. And then you have Avalon, right? So it's like the best of both worlds, which, you know, you have the big, well-known brands that have established themselves, you know, initially outside of Alpharetta. They came there with Avalon. And then you have what's going on downtown, which is spectacular. So there's a reason, I think, in the CVB also, why I think we've covered more Alpharetta restaurants. And don't ask me for my favorite, because that's not even going to happen.
No, I wasn't going to ask you. But Melody actually has a question along those lines. So how does Alpharetta and Metro Atlanta stack up nationally as a food destination?
You know, I felt like Canton Street in Roswell, what was it, 10 years ago, became the prototype, like for almost all of America. It was like, wow, you can do this street 25 minutes outside of, you know, urban area, and you can bring these independent operators and you can turn it into this spectacular success story. And what is it, their Thursday night thing that they had that they have been going. And so you have people all over the country that came and saw that. I'm sure Alpharetta looked at it as well, but now Alpharetta doesn't take a backseat to anybody. So I think they are the prototype in America, right? I mean, what's been more successful than Avalon, and what's more dynamic than what's happening downtown? So again, I've traveled all over the country. I went to school in New Orleans. I'm from Boston.
You keep saying that. I'm from New York. You keep saying you're from Boston.
It's a hard time. I know the Yankees won last night, but you know, it's been hard watching Boston for the last 12, 15 years. Just, you know, all those titles. I don't think you want to talk about New York right now.
So Steak, let me ask you, Steak. You touched on it a little bit, but I gotta throw this in here. We've got a lot of corporate buildings in Alpharetta.
Yeah.
And for that little guy that counted on that day-to-day lunch crowd, you know, the daytime population increases, I think it doubles. It did. So any advice, like one of my favorite little delis, Grouchy's Deli,
Yeah.
how do we help them where they're literally located within the corporate environment?
So, you know, the corporate pain is unfathomable, right? You know, especially where I'm sitting in Atlanta, where, you know, well, anywhere, right? Alpharetta does a great job, Sandy Springs. I mean, you know, when you have tens and tens of thousands of people not going to work, how are you going to sustain a lunch business or a catering business, right? I mean, those orders are the lifeblood of becoming a highly successful restaurateur, right? 200, you know, Joy Cafe, I don't know if you're familiar with Joy Cafe, which is an incredible independent local restaurant. She's been featured, her and her husband, on Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives and Cooking Channel, and we put them on. and they were doing hundreds of catering meals for lunchtime all over the city that just out. So now they're open for dinner and selling alcohol and trying to pivot, and they're in town. But, you know, lunch is a struggle. I'd love to hear what restaurateurs say. Lunch is a struggle. You can bring back dinner. You can do good margins at dinner. You can sell alcohol at dinner. But if you're connected to an office park that had you know, thousands of people that had to make a lunch decision every single day, right? Hey, what are you doing for lunch? The ultimate conversation. Atlanta Eats, we start talking about that at 8:30 in the morning. So, you know, I don't know how I don't have a strategy other than, you know, as much business as you can give to local restaurants and be aware that bulk orders or you know, just driving by to support any way you can, because I don't know what you do with an office park that's empty next to an office building to try. I don't know how you replace that. I think the decision on even being open for lunch is a hard one. You know, the decision on being open for dinner Sunday, Monday, Tuesday nights is probably a hard one. I mean, you know, I don't know what Ron thinks about all that. I'd like to hear from him, but like all those things are tough decisions.
Yeah, sure. The big success that our restaurant has had on Windward Parkway, a lot of it for the lunch business were the big office parks around us, from ADP and Verizon. I mean, that we're blessed with that. So with almost all those being dark, that was a big big reason that we dipped so much. We're fortunate that we've bounced back pretty well, and it's due to the delivery. And you might, I mean, it's just kind of conjecture, but folks that are working out of their homes, and to some degree, those folks are, you know, getting delivery of the that has helped us rebound at lunch. So, you know, it's not going to make up for it until the buildings start, until they're, but that has affected everybody's lunch business. I agree that the catering has been, you know, decimated.
Yeah, I don't think, you know, there is an answer there. Anybody who tells you there's a great strategy to replace that, you know, it's the strategy to replace is less overhead and maybe not being open all those times and just crushing at dinner and figuring out alternatives and, you know, and pivoting the best that you can. But that's just that's a casualty of again of COVID. Lunch places, it's a tough putt. Lunch places.
So are the restaurant? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ron.
Yeah. I was going to just comment on some other things that Steak said, and I totally agree with. I mean, we look at it two ways. One is creating trial, and the second is frequency. So getting visibility for your brand and using the kind of tools that Rick to make people aware so that they come and give you a try. I mean, that's more important than ever. But the stakes of getting the repeat have just gone up dramatically. I can, you know, just say from our perspective, you know, we're blessed with a real successful business, but when you look at the frequency of visit from folks, the vast majority of folks, because of the huge number of choices they have for eating, are only coming once a quarter. So the opportunity for us and for restaurants is, how do we increase the frequency? But the stakes of making sure when they come, they get a great experience. If they don't, and you go from once a quarter to twice a year, I mean, it is, so I guess the point is, you know, for all of us restaurateurs, making sure that we're focused on creating great experiences for folks to try is more important than ever.
Ron and Deborah, are you aware of any special activities this month that the Alpharetta restaurants are going to take on, knowing that there's going to be a lot of energy and focus and celebration surrounding this month? We're in October. Wow.
Ron, you might
Yeah,
have some things lined up.
Well, we are, I mean, October is a great month to be doing this. I am just so excited. When you look, we've got almost 50 restaurants that are participating. And you think of what we're offering here. For folks to buy a $30 card and be able to go to 50 restaurants and up to 8 people get 20% off their check. I mean, we are excited that it's going to bring new guests, increase the frequency for restaurants. And if you look at the breadth of restaurants that we have here, you know, you've got upscale like Ray's on Killer Creek, Home, South Main Kitchen Coalition. We've got fun places like Buffalo Wild Wings. We've got healthy like To Be Whole Bakery and Kill Me Crazy. If you like ramen, Jenya's Ramen Bar. Family fun places like Andy's and BurgerFi. I mean, you could every day go to one of these restaurants and get this discount and not hit them all. So we're gearing up, expecting great turnout, trying this that never have. And I know all the restaurants that are on this list are doing the same thing.
All right. Again, we have about 10 more minutes. Get your questions in. If you haven't gotten the card that Ron just showed, we have a link in the chat. You can click on that and get some great information as well as purchase the card. There was another question. I know you touched on it already, Steak. There's Hilda from Village Tavern is asking, what is the process to get Steak to visit their establishment? So you want to just...
So almost any restaurant in Alpharetta, the CVB contributes. So the biggest cost for us is we do a full-scale production, right? So we're no different than, except that we're a lot quicker. We don't shut your restaurant down. We'll come in with 2 cameras, sound guy, grip, director. I mean, there's 7 or 8 of us. We're like a super stealth. You know, that's why we win the awards we win, and that's why our pieces are so great. And we've done more Alpharetta restaurants. So somebody has to pay for that. And at the beginning, we built the brand, but that wasn't the way to run a business. And I didn't know how expensive content was, right? So to me, content in radio, I own radio stations. Like, I have a big mouth. You put me on there for 4 hours, I talk. That's our content, right? That's not as expensive as having like a whole crew roll in 8 people. So we had to figure out how to do it more affordably. So I would reach out to Alpharetta CVB. A lot of times alcohol companies, partners recommend restaurants, and there's a way to figure out who, you know, can they help subsidize the cost. You know, we don't like to charge restaurants, and especially right now. That's not a good business for us. 90% of our revenue at Atlanta Eats does not come from restaurants. It comes from Gas South and Georgia Lottery and Kaiser Permanente and Central Heating and Air and John Foy and all these big, you know, corporate. So a lot of times they choose restaurants because they want to be good stewards of the community. So they'll tell us what restaurants to cover because it costs a few $1,000s every time we go shoot a restaurant. But if you reach out to us and you have a good story, my digital team that's full-time here, there's a great chance that we'll come out and cover you. And we love, if you see our social, I mean, we have 160,000 followers on Instagram. We're the #1 food site in the city. And we have digital only shoots because they're folks that are being paid, they're full-time employees. When we do a TV piece, those are all freelancers. We have to hire a crew of 8. So does that make sense? But if it's not, you'd be surprised how many folks don't reach out to us to say, how do we get you to come cover us? We're not that difficult. Even maybe, you know, feed us a half a cheeseburger sometimes. We'll work for food.
And just a public service announcement. The Chamber will be at the Alpharetta Farmers Market Saturday to answer questions that maybe we didn't cover here. I hope that we covered a lot, but if there's still more information or someone that missed this, and we will be posting this on all the Chamber social media platforms. So let folks know that if they missed this great conversation, you can watch it a little bit later. Again, people are saying thank you to Steak in the chat. So I do want to say, is there you know, you mentioned I don't know if it was Deborah or Steak or Ron, how involved should the government be in helping restaurants, in any business, but restaurants in this case, get through this patch that we're in right now? Is there anything that they can do, or are there things that they're doing that you don't want them to do that's going to hurt them? And I guess that, Ron, you can also chime in.
Yes, well, as I said before, I would point to the cooperation and proactiveness of the city of Alpharetta being one of the reasons that the hospitality industry has rebounded so well. And, the example I gave where Mayor Gilvin was quick to put together a task force, was asking for input, how the city can help restaurants and all businesses. And one of the things they could do was to change the permitting process for signage. Alpharetta is pretty conservative on signage. And so being able to let us put banners out at the street and then opening up the parking zoning so that we could use parking spaces, the very strict guidelines about ratio of square footage in the restaurant to number of spaces. So it was a really helpful concession that they allowed us to do that so we could spread out the tables, make it a very safe environment for people to come to. So my experience was local government can have a meaningful impact from a practical way of helping us deal with this. Obviously, above local government, the PPP funds have been the lifeblood for many businesses, and that was a good thing. There's more they can do, and the Georgia Restaurant Association and Karen Bremer has done a marvelous job of not only supporting, advising, helping restaurants to find solutions to these issues, but also being advocates for us at the state level and the national level with the National Restaurant Association to try to help the politicians understand what the plight is and how they can help us through, funding and easing some regulations just to, help us get through this. So to me, it's a real meaningful role.
And Steak, as we wind down, can you give your best locker room speech to the restaurant owners as they're going through a tough time? But it's about passion. People don't start a successful business unless they're passionate about what they do, what they love to do. But that doesn't mean that they can't get down at times.
But they're certainly not opening a restaurant,
right?
Because they're like, this sounds awesome, and I'll make tens of millions of dollars. I won't have to work very hard, and I'll have my nice house in Rosemary Beach, no problem. So listen, be grateful you're in Atlanta. We're way ahead of the curve. I don't know what what the hell's going to happen in the Northeast now that it's getting cold and you can't eat inside restaurants. Like just, which is a whole different conversation about, the outdoor dining sustained some folks in New York and Northeast, and now it's, you see it here, it's getting cold, right? So, this last weekend was spectacular. I have friends in Sandy Springs is a great partner of ours, a place called Il Giallo in a strip mall in Sandy Springs. They did 400 covers the other night. It's the most they've ever done in their history. They flipped the place 3 times. They did what they were supposed to do in terms of distancing. They had tables outside. I was at a place called Kaiser's last night that's back and doing well. Alpharetta's got great stories. People are back. There's momentum. So, my take on restaurants and COVID is that it's not restaurants' job, to make sure that you're if you're super nervous, you're probably not at a restaurant, which is fine, right? But like restaurateurs need to make a living, and they need to be able to support themselves. And if you're nervous about distancing, then don't go eat at a restaurant because, my mom's 81 years old and she's in great shape, but she won't eat in restaurants for another 6 to 8 months. But there's plenty of people that will, and there are plenty of them live in Alpharetta, and there's plenty of momentum right now. and college football is back, and the city's alive in the fall, and the numbers are coming down. And if people are just smart, and once you're sitting at a table in a restaurant, you know, you're 6 feet away from folks, and you can have an unbelievable experience. So I think there's huge momentum right now. I think it's good to be in Alpharetta, I would say, right? It's good to be in Roswell. It's good to be in Marietta. It's good to be in Dunwoody. You know, it's good to be in a city that is open. So, and that, you know, the yin and the yang of the mayor and the governor, I think turned out to be a good thing because, you know, there was compromise to a degree, got people more focused on like, let's be smart and try to support each other and not be out of control. And I think restaurants have done a good job with that, but restaurants need to make money and, you know, and buy booze. That's my pitch, because those margins win, you know.
Yeah.
You walk outside with your drink. The Georgia game's going to be on. So Georgia's on Saturday night at 7:30. Enormous opportunity for takeout and carryout, like crazy. And what are we on Thursday? Figure out a way to market it. What are you doing for that? I know, you know, the entire state's going to be watching that game, Georgia and Auburn. Everybody's having their parties at home. So there used to be 80,000 folks that would be in Athens that aren't going to be there.
Tailgate virtually. Yeah.
They're all having parties at their house.
Right.
They're all having parties outside. They need somebody to feed them, right? They need that rum punch. So be out, you know, think out in front. Like, what's Saturday night going to look like, right? With what's the rest of the season going to look like? What holidays, food holidays are coming up? How do I stay on top of? But I mean, people want to spend money at restaurants. You know, it's amazing. Delta's had a disaster of epic proportion, tens of thousands of folks. Yeah. And yet really the only topic that folks talk about from an employment standpoint is restaurants. So, you know, I feel bad for folks at Delta and Coke and other places, but people are much more worried about restaurateurs and the service industry than any other industry. And that's where they want to spend their money.
Steak Shapiro, thank you very much, man. This was great information, great, and it helped me, and I'm sure it helped all the folks.
Yeah, I think I'm optimistic. I'm excited. So tell us what's going on in Alpharetta. Keep us posted. Follow us. I can see right now, everybody better be following us on Atlanta Eats TV and Steak Shapiro, right? So,
all right. So again, the link is in the chat. You can get more information. You can buy the cards. And hey, if you own a restaurant or your employees, doesn't preclude you from not purchasing a card. Go enjoy other restaurants in the area. So again, I want to personally thank Steak for a great conversation. And Deborah, I'm going to throw it back.
I got to get lunch. I got to go get lunch.
Yeah, thanks. So hang on a minute, because a couple cards we want to give away. But again, thank you, Steak. I've been a fan. I'm a 680. You know, I've listened to sports radio for years. I'm a Detroiter. Now, you know, have changed 23 years in Atlanta. So I am pulling for the Braves this year. I am pulling.
Yeah, their first pitch is 8 minutes away, which is fun. So again, back to like, what are folks doing for the game? I know that we're going for lunch. I'm going with a gentleman from the Giving Kitchen. He wants to watch the Braves. We're going to go to somewhere where the Braves game is going to be on at lunchtime, right?
That's just it. That's just it. And we are inviting our community, as I said in the beginning of the show, that sense of community in Alpharetta is so strong. So we're excited to not only enjoy this beautiful weather, welcome in the month of October, but also Restaurant Month. And so definitely want to give away a couple cards. So to our listeners, I think it's just use the chat feature very quickly. It's really going to be more about how fast you can type. Steak told us in the beginning of the conversation where he's from. Where is he from? Let's see what we got, Melody. Do we have a winner?
Do you want me to call it
Where are you from?
No, I'm asking for our audience to participate in the chat feature, and we're looking for a winner that answered the question, where is Steak originally from?
Where are you from, Steak?
I know it sounds like Valdosta, but no, Valdosta. I think it's called, Rick, I think it's called Titletown, isn't it?
Oh, please.
Titletown, right?
Please.
Boston. I'm from Boston.
And Erica Lohman is the winner.
Erica, congrats. All right, one more quick one. Oh my gosh. Melody, do you have a question? I had a couple here, but I'll give you the floor.
Oh, goodness. You put me on the spot, Deborah.
What Act One show will be featured this weekend at Wills Park?
There you go.
We didn't talk about that. But you guys check out Shakespeare in the Park. All right.
Well, okay. How about the first question I suggested? What is the name of the multi-purpose pathway connecting Avalon and downtown Alpharetta?
Oh.
Ooh.
There you go.
There we go.
Erica, you don't get it. I'm sorry. You've already got a card.
Here we go.
Yeah, we got 2 other answers, but not correct.
How about what month is Alpharetta Restaurant Month?
Boom.
Well, while we're getting that taken care of, I want to just again thank everyone for participating. Also, my shout out again to Michael Grillo. Wave to us, Michael. Can't do this without you producing this event today. And as always, Rick Hancock hosting here, co-hosting and moderating. And to my chairman, Ron Altman, thank you for spending some time. I know this is getting to be your lunch hour at BurgerFi, but thank you for spending some time with us this morning.
Pleasure.
All right, well, we'll make sure we get that winner. And we are looking forward to seeing you out in the streets of Alpharetta as we all participate in this month's Alpharetta Restaurant Month. And again, a shout out to Janet Rogers and her team at the Alpharetta CVB. They are our sponsor, our partner, and we couldn't do this without Janet and her leadership. So I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and go Braves, go Falcons, and apparently.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.